Are Spiders OP by TierZoo? Again, I already know this one's gonna be a banger as well. But yeah, without further ado, let's get on with the video.
This episode was sponsored by War Thunder. Arthropods have been one of the most dominant factions in the game since pretty much the very beginning. The safety provided by their tough exoskeletal armor gave the arthropod player base a lot of room to experiment with new builds. One of the most successful examples is the Spider, a unique arthropod build with a whole arsenal of powerful abilities. But just how broken are spiders? Today, we're discussing their stats, their special abilities, and their matchups to demonstrate just how overpowered they truly are. But before we talk about all of their busted attributes, first we have to talk about the least overpowered thing about them, their base stats. While spiders are some of the most effective predators the game has ever known, it's not because their raw stats are anything special. In fact, if anything, their stats make them look pretty pathetic at first glance. There's a common misconception that spiders are, absurdly strong for their size, and although they can indeed lift things 10 times their own body weight, that's honestly not even par for the course when it comes to their weight class. The real kings of the strength category, builds like the ant and beetle, are several times stronger. In fact, much of the spider's skill set is tailored around allowing spiders to take down large prey without needing to be strong enough to physically restrain it themselves. Defensively, things are even worse. Spiders have some of the worst armor of any arthropod. Despite being more closely related to scorpions, their exoskeleton is more akin to that of a soft, plump caterpillar than anything else. Their weak point is completely unarmored and difficult for the spider to guard against. Any direct attack from a predator can easily one-shot them. Their stealth is their only good stat, with the rest of them being mid at best. Of course, that is on average. Some spider builds do specialize in mobility or raw strength, which I talked more about in my spider tier list video. Anyway, the point is, what makes spiders broken is not their stats, but their abilities. Spiders have access to a vast array of powerful perks that dramatically elevate their survival and combat. Real quick, let's go over some of the minor ones first. The spider's appendages may seem pretty unimpressive, and sure, compared to a scorpion's claws or a locust's legs, they're nothing special. But a few things. They do have small claws at the end, which grant spiders excellent climbing mobility. And similar to a lizard's tail, a spider's leg can snap off if hit by a grappling attack in order to escape a combo. Unlike the lizard though, losing only 12% of your legs is a lot less of a sacrifice than losing your only weapon. Many players don't even have the nerve to mess with spiders in the first place though, because of their next ability, Venom.
That's a thing, spiders, they just look intimidating. And on top of that, they're just small. Again, I know there's some people in the comments or some people watching this that got arachnophobia. And to them, I kind of don't blame you. I mean, I kind of do, but I forgot. I think it was this YouTuber called Exotic Layers I used to look at a long time ago that kind of curbed my arachnophobia. So, I mean, that's a plus. So, if you haven't, check him out too. Again, very good YouTuber. Well, at least as far as, insects go. Well, him and Ant Canada. I like both of those channels. So, subscribe to both of those. Just random shout out. Also, did you guys know that the front two fangs on a spider are actually modified limbs?
A useful deterrent on defense, but more importantly, their venom inflicts the paralysis status effect, immobilizing their prey so that it can be more easily carried and consumed. Because of how low the spider's base power stat is, this venom often needs to be extremely potent, able to immediately incapacitate its target, giving it no chance to counterattack or escape. Okay, but enough beating around the bush. All of those abilities pale in comparison to the spider's signature special ability, spinnerets. On this channel, there are a handful of abilities that I bring up over and over as being meta-definingly broken. Tool use, flight, eusociality, echolocation, color change, these all can make or break a character's placement on the tier list.
Yep. Pretty broken strats, not gonna lie. Honestly, they need to be nerfed.
I think silk spinning belongs in this same category. This ability is how spiders broke the game. It is one of the most versatile abilities of all, with applications spanning nearly every aspect of survival, from mobility to offense to defense to tons of niche utility use cases. Let's break it down. The most well-known use is, of course, the standard web trap. A spider player will construct a sticky, net-shaped trap and simply wait for an unsuspecting player to accidentally fly in.
Imagine doing all that just for some other animal main just to walk through it and just not notice it.
Contact with the web immediately inflicts the restrained status condition, which is pretty much instant GG's versus a build that can one-shot you if it lands a hit. But trapping prey really only scratches the surface when it comes to the utility of silk and spinnerets. I'd argue the ability to spin webs buffs literally every aspect of spider gameplay and completely negates all the shortcomings of their stat.
Oh, of course it'd be Australia.
In general, spiders are not all that nimble. Their large
That's not a spider. That's a tarantula. But yeah.
abdomens are fairly cumbersome, and without wings, they're far below average as far as arthropods go. But the amount of additional movement options web spinning gives you is insane. Silk can be used to cross massive gaps with ease. It can be used to completely negate falling damage. It can be used to quickly ascend from a low position. And in some cases, it can even be used to fly, albeit without much directional control, but also without the need for cumbersome wing. Next, let's talk about stealth. While many spiders do have decent camouflage, webs complement their ability to hide in a few ways. The first is just that it enables them to hide in plain sight by positioning themselves away from places that a player would normally check. It's very hard for eyes to focus on something unless they already know the general area to look, so just by nature of sitting in an unorthodox spot, many players will completely miss you. But if a player does detect a spider's presence, there's an advanced technique they can employ to give themselves a better chance to escape. By mashing back and forth on your controller, you can cause the web to vibrate, temporarily granting you the blurred buff, boosting your evasion and making it much more likely that incoming attacks will miss. Webs may be the most useful for boosting the spider's offense. We already talked about the web trap, but there are many more ways a spider can use its webs to increase its odds of a successful hunt. Web traps are most useful against flying builds, but webs can also be cast out as a net to target players scurrying along the ground more effectively, essentially bringing the web to them rather than waiting and hoping they wander in. Or if you want to get even more extreme, silk can be fired as a sticky projectile to pin down opponents at a safe distance. But you don't need to get anywhere near that fancy with it. Even just the basic concept of using a strand of silk to tether yourself to a surface opens up so many attack options in combat. Let me give you an example. Pouncing strikes are one of the riskiest attacking moves a player can employ in combat. They're excellent for closing distance on a target and dealing damage simultaneously. But if you miss, the momentum from the jump can result in your character ending up in a dangerous situation. Pounce is usually seen as the signature move of the Cat faction, and in those examples, the worst case scenario is usually just putting yourself in range of a counterattack. But for builds in lower weight classes, and especially arboreal ones, whiffing a pounce attack can literally send you falling to your doom. For spiders, this risk is completely negated with a single silk tether, meaning jumping spiders can get super greedy with their attacks without needing to worry about poor positioning.
Also, gotta say, one of my favorite spiders out there is the jumping spider. Again, they're so adorable. Again, I'm gonna put up a picture, actually, I might put up a few pictures of jumping spiders, but they're so adorable. You can just look at them and tell that they're intelligent.
Unconventional angles that players aren't used to covering. Great for allowing jumping spiders to attack other spiders' weak points. It really is just an incredibly broken ability, especially for the jumping spider, which can combo silk production with its excellent burst mobility. We're not done though, because silk production can also be used defensively, mainly in the form of base construction. The standard web trap is technically a form of this, though it's probably the least defense-oriented and frankly leaves you quite open to an attack. But skilled players can construct webs in a far more defensive manner if they choose. Styles like the tent web provide much more cover at the cost of visibility. But if you want to really max out your defenses, the trapdoor spider's strategy can't be beat. Rather than using a sticky web to trap its opponents, it instead digs a burrow and uses silk to reinforce the walls and help control the temperature inside, while also laying out a few tripwires on the outside to allow the spider to detect when other players are in range of an ambush. It is admittedly a bit less precise than more active hunting types are though. Now, if you really want to go crazy with it, most of the spider's usual enemies aren't going to look for you underwater. So if you've got the guts to dive down, you can construct a bell web underwater and use that as your home base while you hunt for fish and tadpoles. It's a high-risk, high-reward playstyle though, given how many dangerous builds lurk below the surface. Overall, spiders have an incredible array of traits, and with smart play, they can subvert just about all of their weaknesses. However, there are still some vulnerabilities that skilled players can exploit. So let's talk about their matchups. The spider's best matchups are of course flying insects. Their wings get easily tangled in the web and can get torn up as they try to escape. Getting trapped is almost certainly GG for them. Reptiles may seem like they should have a solid matchup against spiders, and of course, when there are massive size discrepancies, it can be pretty unfair. But for less tanky reptiles, spiders are a huge threat.
I have never seen nothing like that before. Hold on. I didn't even know this was possible. How the hell did that spider catch that snake? You know, I don't even want to think about it too much.
Fangs can puncture right through their defenses and inflict devastating venomous bites. This matchup also really helps it sink in just how strong spider silk is, as even medium-sized reptiles can't easily shake it off. Frogs, and in particular tree frogs, are an especially explosive matchup. Because both frogs and spiders have incredibly low defenses, one wrong move is all it takes. Frogs can easily one-shot spiders, and because of their excellent burst mobility, it's difficult for spiders to evade their attacks. But frogs can also easily get caught in a spider's web while jumping through the trees, and once stuck, a spider can pierce through the frog's paper-thin defenses like nothing, resulting in immediate paralysis. A highly volatile matchup, and surprisingly neutral given the amphibian's low-tier status. Beetles are an interesting case. They are flying insects, but because of their absurdly high power and defense stats, they're a challenge for spiders to overcome even when caught in their web.
He ain't got that
Their
thing.
armor is so thick that a spider's fangs might not be able to pierce through, and they're so strong that even when fully enveloped in a web cocoon, they can sometimes tear through. Spider players are often stuck just sitting and waiting for beetles to either free themselves or die of exhaustion. Birds are typically seen as the worst matchup for all terrestrial arthropods, but at the same time, silk
Bro got
web
took.
traps are highly effective against flying enemies, and birds are no exception. Webs are strong enough to capture small birds, and feathers offer very little protection against venomous fangs. However, if given the chance, birds will pick off an out-of-position spider in an instant, and the bird's armored beak presents no opportunity for the spider to counterattack. Taking out a spider is worth a lot of XP for birds, as they can also steal all of the insects that are trapped in its web. One of the spider's worst matchups is against bats, which is surprising because it's another flyer. This is because the spider's double team technique has to be used on reaction. So, if a spider ever fails to see an enemy coming, it could easily get one shot before it has a chance to respond. This makes them especially vulnerable to builds with the echolocation ability, as they can strike from total darkness, giving the spider zero chance to detect the incoming attack before it's too late.
Check this out. I'm going to show you how I afforded this car. Okay, you ready? All right, 100 and...
And lastly, this isn't a matchup per se, but one of the other weaknesses spiders have are storms. Severe weather events affect web building spiders much more negatively than most characters, as high winds and heavy precipitation can render a web ineffective if it doesn't just outright destroy it. All of this to say, if you take away silk spinning, spiders are actually a real mixed bag when it comes to their viability in the meta. But with access to spinnerets, many of them jump from low mid-tier to high tier, with jumping spiders in particular being arguably top tier. Silk really is just that broken. Knowledge of the enemy's weak points and vulnerabilities is crucial for survival. This is true not just for spiders, but planes with weak points you can does not nearly for at least 6 XP. Thanks again for watching, and as always, good luck out there.
Alright, again, very good video from TierZoo. Again, very good YouTuber out there. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe to me. Again, if it wasn't obvious, I do need some subscribers because I'm at like 23 right now. And whoever just subscribed to me, again, thank you. Again, without further ado, peace, love. Y'all awesome.